We're not entirely sure how to start this video.
We were sent this printer, we're supposed to show it to you, briefly explain 3D printing, and then use it.
But
we're in a bit of shock. We were expecting something very different. This tool is a lot more like an appliance, and it borders on magical.
We've only used it for a little over a week.
And our home will never be the same.
We'll get to that in a moment, but first, we need to tell you what happened when we put a P1S 3D printer in our home.
And why we just bought a second one.
Let's go. All right, so first things first, this is a 3D printer. Now, if you're new to the tech, this is an additive manufacturing tool that melts down plastics and then it draws shapes line by line that solidify into 3D objects.
Specifically, this is the P1S from Bambu Labs. It's a fully enclosed 3D printer with a 256mm cubed printing capacity, which is a little under 10 inches cubed.
Now, ours is equipped with this AMS on top, which allows us to print with up to 4 different colors, which is pretty cool.
Based on videos that we've seen on TikTok and YouTube Shorts, this is pretty much what we were expecting. What surprised us both was what happened when we opened it.
I have a lot of friends with 3D printers, so I assumed that we need to do a lot of assembly. I've watched videos where people spend hours getting 3D printers set up and tuned, and they have to level the beds and adjust heat and 1,000 other settings that quite frankly kept us away from a 3D printer until now.
But when we took this one out of the box and followed some basic instructions, it was ready to go in only a few minutes.
We did what the instructions said, and we took a couple of shipping bolts out, plugged it in, put in some filament, and installed an app called Bambu Handy on our phones. Now, once it found our printer, it suggested to us, hey, why not print something? Here are a few options. And among the thumbnails was this little guy. It's an axolotl toy. It looked adorable, so I just clicked on it, and a few seconds later, it started to print.
The printer was suddenly moving very quickly. Now, I thought a toy like this would take half a day, but the print was finished in just 90 minutes. And in the end, we had this, an adorable little toy that didn't exist just 90 minutes earlier.
We all immediately noticed how smooth the finish was on this thing. I thought 3D printed stuff was made with layers that you could easily see, but this was just about perfect. Right off the building plate, it was modular and held together with rings. The printer just printed the rings around each other. It's utterly brilliant.
And we didn't have to do anything but tap on an icon. This magical box just made a toy.
Now, we gave that axolotl to one of our kids, which naturally produced toy orders from the rest of them. But first, I wanted to get the printer a place to live in my new office. So to get it off the floor, I grabbed one of these cheap IKEA lac tables. They're like $10, which I thought was perfect. It's the right size, but I was worried it might not be stable enough for the printer. I searched for that question on Google and instantly found literally dozens of solutions, all of them 3D printable. There were supports you could screw into the lac table to make it more stable. So I had print project number 2. Found a good set on the app, tapped the button, and 110 minutes later, I had supports. I screwed them onto the table by hand and the printer had a home. Now by then, our littlest was pretty tired of his sister pushing her axolotl in his face and wanted the magic box to print him a toy too. So at his direction, we searched for dinosaurs, this time on the Maker World website, which ties right into Bambu Labs desktop software called Bambu Studio. We found this Triceratops who stood out for being multicolored. I literally forgot we could print in more than one color at that point. So we downloaded it directly into our software and I was able to easily choose which parts would be printed in which color filament. And then it was time to wait. Our little one sat in front of the printer for quite some time before we convinced him it would take a while.
A long while, actually, 17.3 hours to be precise. This was for a few different reasons. First was the size. This was going to be made with quite a bit more material than the first toy. But as it turns out, it's the switching between colors that takes so much time. Every change requires the printer to stop printing, retract the current filament, load the next, and then purge a bit of the print to make sure that the old color is completely out of the print head.
The purged filament gets ejected out the back, so naturally the kids call this robot poop. And this little guy generated a lot of it.
This beautiful thing quickly became our robot toy maker. Ideas were flying everywhere.
But this is not a robot toy, this is Daddy's tool, and I want to use it for making.
Right.
I had recently watched this video by my buddy Drew Witt over at WittWorks. This guy is a 3D printing pro and put together this amazing guide to 3D printing for woodworkers. You should watch it. After I did, I wanted to start with something simple but functional, so I printed a square. And this square is square. I measured the square against the square to be sure it was square, and it took less than an hour to print.
Enough of that. It was Marie's turn. Our oldest found a model of a cat that she wanted for her bookshelf. This one took 7.6 hours, but would you look at this thing?
So this model that she found really opened my eyes to what a printer can do. This thing only had supports printed on the bottom because the design wasn't flat. Other than that, it printed all of these lines just like in the air.
Like magic?
Like magic. But back to the tools. Next, I printed these paint triangles. That's $3 Home Depot won't be getting anytime soon. And found this clever mini hex wrench that holds tiny hex bits so you can get screws into the super tight spaces. And the thing works. At this point, I felt like I was ready to show off. I jumped on our production crew Discord server, only to find out 2 of our members had just bought 3D printers, Bambu Lab printers I might add, and Jim from Philly Fix had made this freaking Makita battery holder complete with logo. He had found someone else's model online that held a single battery, and he modified it with 3D modeling tool into something that he wanted. That was the next level. I knew I needed to learn how to model, but until then...
Hey Jim, I was looking at that print, that design that you share with us of the Makita battery mount. That thing looks awesome. So I have a request. I don't know how to do this stuff yet, but could you possibly make me one for my Flex batteries?
Yeah, I think I could do that. No problem.
All right, then you'd be able to just like send me the file and I can drop it in my printer and I can print it here, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thanks, dude. Appreciate it.
Now, while Jim worked on building a model for me, I got started on a fusion class from Bob at I Like to Make Stuff, a course that Drew Witt recommended, and I'm glad he did. It quickly got me up to speed, and I was just about ready to make something of my own.
While he worked on that, our eldest, who had a sudden new interest in what a 3D printer can do, asked us to print a 2D artwork with a 3D printer. She pointed us to this photo of Diagon Alley from Harry Potter, and we figured, why not? And will you look at this thing? It's beautiful. Turns out people are sharing all kinds of art like this, and some people are using it to replicate printed brushstrokes, making super realistic painting prints. How cool is that?
Now, once I got through my class, I wanted to try to make something simple with my own artwork. So I took our Tool Show logo, which I created, and extruded it, made a back with a hole on the top, and just like that, I printed my first Tool Show Christmas ornament. I'm sure there are 100 settings I could play with to make this print more efficiently, faster, or maybe make it more durable, but right out of the software, this thing's pretty awesome.
And that's how our week has been. Non-stop ideas, fighting over print time and filament, and sharing the joy of pulling fresh prints out of our new favorite appliance.
I'm just getting started with tool organization.
I printed a dragon that I've wanted ever since I saw it in a local shop.
I can't wait to keep using it for organizing my shop and office, making mods for tools, and just letting my creativity expand into a new medium. And I haven't even gotten into the many different types of materials you can print with.
At the end of Drew's 3D printing video for woodworkers, he highlights dozens of great projects that we still plan to try.
But again, this wasn't exactly what we thought it was going to be. It's easier, it's faster, and accessible to everyone in our home.
There's a massive queue in our household, and it's been a real joy sharing an entirely new world of possibilities with our kids. They all have ideas that they want to explore, prints they want to try, and projects that they want Dad to design.
And for us, seeing the kids get excited about design and production was super encouraging.
Which brings us to our ultimate conclusion. They need one of their own.
And it's not just about sharing a printer with the kids, that'd be easy enough. It's about handing them a tool that belongs to them and they get to control. When something breaks, we want them to think about using their minds and their printer to fix it, instead of just throwing it away. We want them to create instead of just consume.
So we bought them one for Christmas.
Bambu Lab has this tiny little printer called the A1 Mini. It's not enclosed, so it's not ideal for exotic materials, but if they really need to print something like that, they can use ours.
Their A1 Mini will still come with the AMS, so they can print up to 4 colors. It will print a little bit slower, but we think patience is a virtue too, and we picked it up for only $350 during their end of year sale. I still can't believe that it was that cheap.
Now, hopefully they will see this video after Christmas because Santa's bringing that one Christmas morning.
After a week, we're excited and we have a lot of ideas to print.
I plan to work on my modeling skills and finding new ways to put this appliance to work for my shop, our studio, and the house.
But it's obvious to us that even after a week of geeking out, there is a huge 3D printing world for us to explore, and we're genuinely excited to watch every new print.
Now, if you want to explore this new world as well, there are a lot of videos we'd recommend that you would watch. There are several websites with free 3D files, and I can't recommend that Fusion class enough. We'll link to as many resources as we can in the description. Oh, and we haven't even touched on the topic of printing things to sell. It looks like a ton of fun. But before you do that, I'd suggest you head over to Print Farm Academy on YouTube, where Travis from Shop Nation walks you through the whole process of designing, printing, and selling your own ideas.
If you have any questions about our own experience, feel free to ask us in the comments. Bambu Lab did sponsor this video and sent us this printer, but we were encouraged to just share our own experience with you, which is what we've done. And no, they don't know that we bought a new one and that we paid for it with our own money.
Honestly, after this week, I'd gladly pay for this one too. If you want to learn more about 3D printing and Bambu Lab specifically, we encourage you to find their social channels, which we'll link to as well. That's it for now. I want to get this thing back to its home so I can print some more mounts for our Ego batteries. If you'd like us to share more of our 3D printing adventures, let us know.
Yep, we're building a dedicated 3D printing shop in our basement, and we would love to show it to you if you're interested.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Happy holidays, and we'll see you this and every Friday for the Tool Show.
See ya.